Anyway, let's get started, guys. We're running a bit late already because of technical hassles. Sorry about that. So we are going to be talking about ear training today. Lots of you have requested some pointers about how to get started, things you want to practice, techniques, tricks, all of that stuff. So let's jump in straight away. Let's just let's not do any more introductions. If you've got any questions or anything, drop them in the chat. Okay. If you've got any things that you're currently trying that isn't working for you, let me know about them. Or if you started your ear training and you are getting stuck on one thing, then also chuck it in the chat. Let's talk about it, see if I can help you out. Okay. Ear training. What is it? Why do we do it? Ear training is an umbrella term, okay, that basically is a series of exercises and techniques to enable you, the guitar player, or you, the musician, to nurture a deeper connection between your ears, your brain, and your fingers. It takes those three components all to talk to each other seamlessly for that music to flow out of you. So today we're going to be talking about ways to nurture that connection, things you can do to practice. We're also going to be talking about when we can use them. Okay, when is this useful? Well, it's useful throughout everything. Starting from, even if you started playing guitar this week, ear training would help you if you started now. The sooner you start, the better it is for you. And it's hard to let people know the value of that until they start getting some results, which, just like on guitar, when you first start playing, can take a little bit of time. Okay, Dylan's saying, I was wondering how you can tell the tuning of a guitar while transcribing. That's a great question. You're straight in there, Dylan, with a great question. Well done, mate. Okay. The first thing to do is, well, assume that it's in standard tuning, okay? Because probably 80% of the stuff that you might listen to, unless you have a specific genre, is going to be in standard tuning. The things that might indicate to you that things are not in a standard tuning, there's a couple of things. First of all, the order of the intervals doesn't sound like what you're playing. And that's if you're playing like the right chord, like you're playing a G, you know, it's a G, right? And you're playing a G, maybe it's an open G, but what you're hearing on the record doesn't sound like an open G. It doesn't sound like a barred G. When you run through each individual note, it doesn't, the notes, the intervals are not in that order. And that will be because probably that guitar is in an open tuning or an altered tuning of some kind. It's just to do with noticing that the intervals in the chord are not the same as what's in your chord. And sometimes you will try to finger the notes that you're hearing and find that they're crazy, okay? They're crazy distances and almost unplayable. And that's a clue that actually maybe this note that's like the big stretch has actually been tuned. There's a couple of other things. That's for kind of open tuning. Open tuning's a lot in slide and blues, Delta blues stuff, some rock and roll. Another thing is, quite commonly, guitar is tuned to E flat, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, Slash. There's a bunch of those. Now, some of them are well known and well known for playing in E flat. So, you could Google them and find out. Other times, there's just what I call a tell in their performance. For example, Red House by Jimi Hendrix. Now, there's a moment in Red House. I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's like 1 minute something in, but he plays a lick and then his fingers leave the strings. Okay, so you think it might be in whatever key, but he's like, and he accidentally kind of hits these open strings as his hands leave the fretboard. And if that tell is not the same as your open strings, then, I mean, you can tell that's tuned down because it doesn't match yours. So that's a kind of, you just get these momentary clues to go, oh, I don't think that's in standard tuning. So those are a couple of things, Dylan. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so let's get back to the ear training. So I'm just going to start with single note stuff, and then we're going to talk about chord stuff, okay? Because I think what you want to start with is nurturing this connection. The reason we do it is because ultimately we want to be able to play the melodies that we hear in our head without too much faffing around with just hunting for each individual note in the symphony we hear in our head. That's very time consuming. So by nurturing this connection, we get to do that almost instantaneously. I mean, some people who are really good at it just play exactly what they hear without any hesitation about where they need to play that. I'm not quite up to that standard, but there are techniques you can use that you can work out the melody you hear in your head or somebody else's melody just in your head, and just using a technique I'll cover a bit later, you can work out what intervals they are and work out what the melody is in terms of the intervals, and then you will be able to go straight to the fretboard and play it exactly, okay? Now that sounds like a crock, I know, but you'll see how it works a bit later, so stick with me here. Okay, so single note exercises. If you've never done ear training before, and I'm assuming some of you just want to get started, I want to start with the easiest thing. So the first exercise is as follows. Okay, we're going to just play a note on the guitar and sing or hum or whistle it. Okay, it's because it's easier to start with playing a note and then singing it rather than the opposite way around. But spoiler alert, if you don't do the singing or the humming or the whistling, you can't do ear training. Okay, you won't get any better if you don't do that. It doesn't have to be singing in front of people. It doesn't have to be an incredible singing voice. Okay, it's just you and your guitar in your private place where nobody could hear you, but you do need to manifest a physical resonance of that note in your body. Okay, you might have seen me a couple of streams ago talking about muscle memory of fingers. Okay, well, when you sing a note, you are creating a muscle memory in your throat because your throat needs to know, the muscles need to know how open or contracted they are to make that pitch. So we're creating a muscle memory physically with our body in the same way we physically do with our fingers. That's really important, okay? It doesn't work if you don't sing, whistle, or hum. So exercise 1 is a good preparatory exercise for what we'll do later. You just choose a slice of your fretboard, okay? Wherever you like to be comfortable. I'm going to be about here, okay? And we'll focus our exercise on this area, okay? We will also focus on just the bottom 3 strings or the top 3 strings. Up to you, but pick one of them. So I'm going to do the bottom 3 strings. Now, play a note on your guitar and then sing it. Boop, boop. Okay, I know it's very simple, but we have to start somewhere. Then find another note, maybe on a different string. Boop, boop. And just go through that simple exercise of playing a note, singing it. Alternate between the two. Play the note, sing it. If you haven't quite got it, you might be a little bit off. You might be. You got to ask yourself, is the note I'm singing higher or lower than the note I'm playing? The only way you really figure that out is to sing the note you're playing, and try and sing the note that you were playing. That can be a bit tricky, but really you're trying to kind of feel when it's right. And when it's right, it feels right. When it's not right, if you have to think about it, that means it's not right. So start there. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. Just play some notes on your guitar and sing them. Okay. Play the same note again, sing it. Alternate between the two. Right. Then find a different note and repeat it. Don't jump around too much. Don't. This is why we focus in on maybe the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so you can't go from there to, because that's quite a big jump. You want to kind of make it easy for yourself. Right. The next exercise is the opposite. I call it the human tuner. And let me explain. Back in the day, before we had digital tuners, we would tune our guitar by pressing down on the 5th fret of 5 of the strings and the 4th fret of one of the other strings. We play the 5th fret of the E string, and then we play the A string. Okay, so we're playing a fretted note and we're playing an open note. And if your guitar's in tune, those sound the same. If your guitar's not in tune, you get that kind of dissonance, right? And then as you tune up to pitch, it kind of comes into focus. I'll do it again. It's just what you should kind of hear. That's not quite right. It's kind of close. Let me just do it a bit more. What you should hear there is 2 notes, and then eventually they kind of become one. It's kind of like focusing binoculars. You start with things that are blurry, then it's getting sharper, then bam, it's in complete focus. All right. Just keep that concept in mind as we go forward. The human tuner. Now we're going to sing a note and try to find it. Okay, so we're going to go randomly out of the blue. Duh, duh. Gosh, that was. Let me do that again because I was really close there. Duh, duh. Okay, now I've sung a note and I've played a note. I don't think the note I'm singing duh, is the note I found on my fretboard. Okay, so then what you do, and this is the important bit, is to just move up 1 fret at a time until you find the note. Okay, there's only 12 notes in music, so you've got 11 more choices. Duh, 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 duh. Okay, and what we've done there is that same kind of thing as what I was doing when we were listening to one note against the other note. It wasn't quite right, and then I was tuning it to pitch, and both of them kind of became one. One of them kind of disappeared. You can hear like, duh, sorry, duh, I hope you heard that happened. Okay, so that's our human tuner. And again, ask yourself, once you did that note, remember I started here at the 1st fret, ask yourself, is the note I'm singing higher or lower than the note I'm playing? Okay, and you can kind of tell if you hear you can feel it. That's lower, so you need to move up the fretboard. If you're going second note, if you ask yourself, is that note higher or lower? This is obviously higher. So you need to move down the fretboard, right? But 1 fret at a time and stay on the same string. Sometimes you might go a bit beyond. You might go you might go a bit further than you need to, and then go, oh no, it sounded closer the note before. All right, so that's another really simple one. I'm sure Adrian, Dylan, Lewis, you probably do that kind of really rudimentary stuff already. So we're going to move on to some other stuff too. But for anybody watching the replay or anybody who comes in a bit later and they want to just get started, I thought it was important to at least have a pathway from not knowing anything about it to getting started. Okay, now let's talk about the outcomes of that. The outcomes when you sing a note and you play. The first outcome could be you hit a wrong note, like that one, and it's obvious it's a wrong note. So in that instance, you try again, move up a fret or down a fret. Okay, so that's outcome possibility number one. The second outcome possibility is you find the exact note, and it feels right. But there are two other possibilities that I don't think get discussed. And working with my students on ear training, they report this as something that makes them second guess themselves quite a lot. Okay, there's two more outcomes. The first is it might be they might be singing that note and they're playing this note. Now what's happened there? Is it the same note? What do you guys think? Well, yes, it is the same note, but what I'm singing is an octave higher than the note I'm playing. That's right, Dylan. It's harder to tell because it's an octave up. But actually, that note's correct. It's the same note, but it's just in a different register. And that can throw you when you're first starting out. Particularly, for example, if you are a woman doing this exercise and you're focusing on the bottom three strings like I am, but your voice is naturally an octave higher than a man's, right? So you'll be going, and you'd be like, well, that kind of sounds like it, but at the same time, it doesn't quite sound like it. Like, so just be aware of that. If you manage to sing it and it's an octave or it feels right, you can find the octave of the note if you know how to find the octave of the note. Octave of the note on the D string would be 3 frets up, 2, 3, and 2 strings down. And then you could confirm that. But if you're hitting that note and it's kind of, if you're singing an octave higher than the note, but you found the note, that's the main thing at this stage, okay? Don't beat yourself up that you didn't hit the note exactly in the correct register as well as finding the note. Okay, the fourth outcome, and this is the big one that I get a lot of students talking about, is they get something like this. Here's my... Okay, they might be going here. They might be going... And they're like, yeah, that's it. That feels right. Okay, or it might be this one. And they'll be like, yeah, I think that's it. Okay, what's happened here, and it's very common with my students, is they haven't hit a wrong note, but they've hit a harmony of the note that they're trying to hit. So we're trying to hit this note, and they've hit either this note or this note. They found usually the third or the fifth harmony in relation to the note they're trying to find. Now, if you find yourself doing this, the best thing to do is remember that note you found on your fretboard. You thought it was this one. And then try again, because it feels right, but it doesn't feel right. But it doesn't feel as wrong as some of the other notes, like, which is obviously very definitely feeling wrong. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, the next exercise is to repeat that with 2 notes, okay? And we're going to move on to applying this in a second to listening to songs and figuring them out. All right. So I know I just want to cover some basics for people. Now let's do this with two notes. Let's pick another kind of area of the fretboard and go like this. What we're trying to do is sing those two notes. Do, do. All right. I think I've done this the wrong way. So you got to not play them on the guitar, because this is the question you've got to ask yourself is the second note higher than the first note? And well, because you played the notes on your guitar, you already know that the second note's higher than the first note. So forget I just said that. You sing two notes. Do, 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 do. Let's do those. Do, 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 do. Lewis, we're going to get to fingering. We're going to get to figuring out the intervals in a second, all right, bro? Do, 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 do. Okay, we need to find those two notes. Do, 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 do. Ask yourself, is the second note I sang higher or lower than the first? And what you can do is get your fingers up here and go, do, 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 and you want to go, well, is this hand need to go up or down? Do. That's right, Lewis. It's lower. So do. And when you sing your melody things, you can do this. Have one bit in here and go do. Okay, so it's lower. So I found my do here. So it has to be lower. I know it's lower. How much lower, I don't know at this stage. But then just walk down the fretboard one fret at a time. Okay, well, so I found that quite easily. All right. The crucial question is the note I'm listening to now higher or lower than the note before it? Okay, so now let's move on to using what we've done previously in a practical application of learning a melody in an actual song. We'll take a song and we'll use our ears, the pause button, and a 5-step process. So open up Spotify or YouTube or iTunes or whatever and select a song with an opening melody. A song that has a riff or a melody at the beginning of the track before the song gets too sonically dense and cluttered with the other instruments. A few examples here might be Gravity by John Mayer, Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton, Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters, Is This Love by Bob Marley. So that's a couple off the top of my head. There's plenty more. But here are the steps to working out songs off a record by ear. Get Sweet Child of Mine. Okay. All right, step one is acclimatize. All right. Listen to the opening seconds of the song a few times. Listen to that melody a few times. Just to get comfortable. Listen to it, stop, rewind, listen to it again, stop, rewind. You get the idea. Listen a few times to get comfortable and to acclimatize your ears. And this is very important, and I'll talk more about acclimatizing your ears a bit later. Okay, but that's step one, acclimatize, repeated listening. Step two, recreate. Okay, get your finger ready on the pause button, play the track, take a listen, but this time pause the track after the first note. Then immediately hum or sing or whistle that note, and then try and find it on your fretboard using the human tuner method we just talked about of, going one fret at a time and staying on the same string. Okay, then once you've found that first note, rewind the track again, play the track again, and then play the note on your fretboard at the same time as that note appears in the song. Okay, that's just to confirm you were right. Okay. Next is step 4. Step 3 was confirm. So play what you think it is against what it actually is and just double check. Step 4 is document it, right? Write it down on tab or just a piece of paper, just like fret number and string or whatever, but write it down, because it's so easy when you start doing this at the beginning. It's hard to hold the note in your head, and often you'll lose it and you'll need to re-find it. And sometimes you might think you have refound it, but you accidentally picked up a completely different note and you start writing it. If you don't write it down, you might just get the whole thing all mixed up and wrong. By writing it down, you prevent yourself from having to redo the work you've already done. Now, I know we've only so far figured out one note, right? So that's not a big deal to go and refine that one note. But if we're 12 notes in and we lose our place and we haven't written it down, that's a problem. So make it easy for yourself. Document it. Then step 5 is repeat. Rewind. Now listen to the first 2 notes and ask yourself, is the second note I hear higher or lower than the first note, which I've already found? Okay, ask yourself that question. Play those 2 notes, hum those 2 notes, and then immediately try and find that second note on your fretboard. Okay. Remember, 1 fret at a time. And a tip here is to remember that melodies we find pleasing are those similar to how somebody sings. When a vocalist sings, they don't sing with notes all over the place. They don't sing like, okay, it doesn't, okay, some music might do that, but not much, and not the stuff we kind of listen to, right? So the melody notes are usually quite close together, all right? What about, let's give you an example. Take When September Ends by Green Day. The melody is, what's the lyric? Summer has come and passed, innocent can never last. We just take that first line. Summer has come and passed. If you analyze that, you'll go, do, 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 and you find that that whole first line is just 2 notes going up and down. Do, 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 do. Lewis, thank you. G's not my key, but bless you for thinking I can half sing this early in the morning. So that's the tip. Keep in mind that melodies don't tend to be massively, 1 note in the melody is not massively far away from the second note in the melody, because that is too jarring for us. Unless you do, unless you listen to some type of extreme technique music, some metal kind of thing, which is could be, but most of the stuff we hear is quite close together, right? Right, so remember that when you're trying to hear and find notes in melodies that you're listening to, John Mayer, Bob Marley, Megadeth, whoever, and also remember that when creating your own melodies and solos is, don't jump around too much. Keep things kind of nicely contained, right? So those are 5 steps. Acclimatize. Step 1, acclimatize. Listen repeatedly to what you're about to try and do. Gives your ear and your brain context. Number 2, try and recreate it. Hit the pause button. Hum what you hear. You could do it 1 note at a time, or you could do it 2 notes at a time if you're feeling confident. Okay, try and find them on the fretboard. Step 3 is confirm them. Rewind and play along to the track and confirm that what the notes you think they are actually those. Step 4, write it down. Step 5, repeat until you've got everything. Lewis says, all my favorite riffs are with very close notes. Yeah. Most cool riffs are. Because, it doesn't go further than an octave. That's right. Things don't tend to jump around too much. Okay, so now let's move on to chords and trying to hear chords. And also, Lewis was talking about the intervals. Okay. Was it you, Lewis, or was it Dylan that was asking about intervals and how to work them out? How about figuring out the intervals? It was you, Lewis. All right. Dylan says, so do you think doing the human tuner would eventually allow you to imagine how solos are played as you hear them? No, the human tuner exercise is a way in. It's a way to get you started. There's a little bit more work to be done and exercises that you can do that build on that human tuner exercise that will help you get to imagining how solos are played faster as you hear them. You could do it with the human tuner exercise, but it would be much slower. Okay, but if that's all you got right now, then you could do that if you've got the patience and the discipline. And that's what I had to do in a world where I wanted to learn songs, but there was no internet, there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there was no Ultimate Guitar Tabs or Songster. The only way to figure out a song you wanted to learn was to listen to it and try and recreate it on guitar. It was a long, slow process, but it was the only way. You could buy a book, but they were expensive. You could ask a friend if they knew how to play it. I lived in a small village. I had quite a few friends, but only one other played guitar, and he was about the same level as me, so there was really nobody to ask. Okay, how to train the ear with little time. Right, let's go on to hearing chords. We're going to do major chords first, but you can apply this to minor chords as well, and you should do, because the first basic kind of difference that our ears hear really is between major chords and minor chords, right? We kind of say that major chords sound more positive, happy, and minor chords sound sad or melancholy. So at the very beginning, let's just split things we hear into sounds kind of minor and sad or melancholy, or sounds kind of positive and happy. All right, that's the first thing you can do. All right, so what we'll do for this is to use that bar chord shape. Okay, we'll use the root 6 bar chord shape. I call it root 6 bar chord shape because its root is on 6th string, and if you know the cage system, then it's the E shape bar chord. Okay, so this is the technique. Play a chord like I just did, and then play the first, the third, and the fifth interval in here. Now, I'm going to take a step back because some of you might not know the intervals or the scale degrees. So let me just say that to do this exercise, you do need to know one major scale shape. Okay, it could be any major scale shape, but you do need to know one of them. And all we're going to do is assign each note in the major scale a number. So first one is 1, second one is 2, third one is 3. Okay, all the way up, 1 to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, because that's the octave of the 1. Okay, so we need to know that. If you don't know that, you just need to Google major scale shape, and then we can get started. So you play a chord, then you play the 1, the 3, and the 5. So you play up your major scale. If you're playing an A, you need to play an A major scale. Here's the 1, leave out the 2, play the 3, and play the 5. Okay, so then you play 1, 3, 5, 3. So you go up and then down. Okay, so far we played the chord and we played 1, 3, 5, 3. Then we do that again, but this time we sing along. Do, 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 do. And then once we're happy with that, do, 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 we just play the chord and sing those notes. Do, 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 do. And if you want a quick shortcut, instead of counting up, you can use that 1, 3, and a 5, which is an octave higher, which is this. These 3 notes, which are inside your bar chord shape on strings 2, 3, and 4. So that's the method. Play a chord, find the 1, 3, and 5. Play 1, 3, 5, 3. Remember to go up and then down. Play the chord. Play 1, 3, 5, and then sing 1, 3, 5. Sing it along with what you're playing. And then once you're happy that you've got the notes and you're holding them in your head, then you just play the chord. You don't play the notes. You just sing those notes. Okay. The next thing you can do to develop this is try leaving out one of the intervals. So you play the chord, then you play, and then you just try to sing the 1. Oh, sorry, I don't mean that. I mean, you only play the 1 and the 3. So you go, and because of the stuff you've done before, you should be able to kind of fill in that 5. Next, just leave out the 3 and the 5. So you're going. Then after that, the logical progression is to not play any of the notes, just play the chord and go do 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 do. So do that for one chord, and then we move on. It's important you do all that with one chord because your ear now is acclimatized and it's kind of linked. It's got some context to that particular chord. Okay. So now we need to transport that to another chord. So let's do. Actually, I'm going to go lower because otherwise I'll be. No, it's right here. Just see how badly my singing gets up here. So play the chord. Play the 1, 3, 5, and the 3. And try and sing along to that when you play it. Then we play just the chord and sing those 3 notes. Okay, that's for major chords. You can do it with minor chords. What we're doing is playing the notes that make up the chord. Okay, for a basic major chord, just a little bit of theory here. A major chord is only built from 3 pitches, 3 different notes. That's the first note in the major scale, the 3rd note, and the 5th note. I'm sure you guys already know that. So if we're playing an A major chord, we're playing the 1st note out of the scale, the A major scale, the 3rd note out of that A major scale, so 1, 2, 3, and the 5th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's all that's contained in a major chord, only 3 notes. I know you're playing 6 strings, and you think, well, what are you talking about? Because there's 6 notes. But the other 3 notes are just double ups. They're just repeats of those notes we just talked about. Okay, for a minor chord, it's the 1. It's not the 3 this time, it's the flattened 3. So to flatten something, you move it down by 1 fret. So now we're playing a minor chord. Let's do it in a different key. Okay, we're in G minor. Then we're going to do the 1, not the 3, but the flat 3, and then the 5. Get comfy with that. Okay, what we're doing, if you want to put jargon around it, we're singing the arpeggio. We're singing the triad. We're arpeggiating the triad. Let's just put in as much music jargon as I can. Okay, but what we're doing is singing the 3 pitches that make up that chord, one at a time. Okay, that's why when you hear singers warming up, they'll be like. They're doing all that. That's what they're doing. Or they might go through the major scale. They might go. It might be something like that if you hear singers warming up. You know, all of that stuff. That's what they're doing there, arpeggiating the chord. Okay, Louis, on to your point about how do we figure out the intervals? Okay, great question. The easiest way to figure it out is by using songs or melodies you're already familiar with as a kind of starting point. Okay, let me see what you mean. Okay, so intervals of the major scale, we've already given each one of those notes in the scale a number, right? 1 to 7. That's called the scale degrees if we call them just by numbers, 1 to 7, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, flat 7. Those are scale degrees. Intervals are kind of the same, but use slightly different language, and quite often it's interchangeable. But let me just cover that in case you hear something weird, jargony stuff that you don't understand. So intervals are not the notes themselves. Okay, they're the distance between two notes. So just like you measure miles or kilometers, an interval is a measure of distance between two notes. Now, typically when we talk about ear training, it's the distance between the root and one of the other notes in the scale. But it can be the distance between, excuse me, any two notes. So how can we use songs we're already familiar with to help us identify the intervals in which a melody travels? Okay, well, here's what we do. we take our scale, and each one of these notes in the scale has an interval name. Okay, so the distance between the first note and the second note in the scale, in the major scale. We're just talking about major intervals here right now. Okay, all the intervals in the major scale are described as major something or perfect. Okay, so the distance between the first note and the second note in the scale is the distance of a major second. So that distance is a major second. So let's just deal with that distance of a major second. If you have a song that has a melody that goes do do and you don't know what it is, you can use a song and then you can go through these like 3 or 4 reference songs to try and figure out what that distance is. Okay, now I don't mean songs that you've got on your playlist. I mean songs that are deeply ingrained in your memory, in your psyche, because you've known them ever since you were a child. And those songs are things like hymns, nursery rhymes, and songs in the public domain. Okay, and we'll be using some of those. So the one for the major second, that distance, is Happy Birthday. You've been to lots of birthdays. You know how Happy Birthday goes because you have to sing it every birthday ever since you were able to go to birthday parties, right? So when you sing Happy Birthday to you, the birth part of that line, Happy Birth, that is a jump of a major second. So that's the first one of your reference songs. You're listening to something, and if you are listening to a melody and you can sing those first 2 lines, first bit of Happy Birthday, do do do, and your melody you're trying to decipher matches that, then that's a distance of a major second. Okay, distance of a major third, there's plenty of them. An easy one, depending on your culture, but most people know this song is the song When the Saints Go Marching In. Okay, oh, when the saints, oh, when, that's the distance of a major third. Okay, quickly, other 2 are the fourth one, the perfect fourth. The fourth interval is one of the ones we describe as perfect. The perfect fourth is one of them. The perfect fifth is the other one. All the others are just called major something. So you've got major second, major third, then perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh. Okay? So for our distance of a perfect fourth between here, if you've got a melody that does that, now you're not sure what the melody does, so you're basically scrolling through these reference songs in your brains and singing them against what you're hearing and trying to see if they match. The reference song, very popular, is Auld Lang Syne. You know, you sing New Year's Eve. Okay? Smoke on the Water. Would you use that as a reference, Lewis? I don't think. It is a fourth, but those are fourths played simultaneously. And what we're doing is talking about melody notes that are played one at a time. So do, 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 do. I use Auld Lang Syne. Do, 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 do. So if your melody goes, you go do, 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 do. Hey, that sounds like Auld Lang Syne. Do, 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 do. And that's your starting point. It's a jump of a fourth. And my favorite, the distance of a perfect fifth. We'll just do this much, okay? Because I want to get on to some other stuff. Has anyone got a reference song for the perfect fifth? I have. It's a glorious one. Yes, it's Star Wars. So the perfect fifth. Power chords also, yeah. But, you know, power chords, Lewis versus Star Wars, who's going to win? Am I right? It's going to be Star Wars. Okay. So those are some reference songs you can use to begin trying to decipher things you hear. You can do this formally, you can do this informally, but again, what you can do with that is, if you're able to, let's kind of do this. Try and think of something. All right. Let's take Gravity by John Mayer. The intro, the melody. Okay, if we're in G, because I've seen John play it and it's in G, right? So this is our root note. What I'm going to do is now try and figure out the melody that he plays, because I've heard it enough times to have it in my head. Okay, Dylan's asking, I heard you say in another stream that you could tell when a note was an open string. What gives it away? That's a good question. Okay, what gives it away is typically the brightness and how long it rings, okay? It is a little more nuanced, so that's not something necessarily a beginner would be able to determine. But, you know, if you've got... You've got that, and then you've got... There's a different brightness to that. Yeah, Lewis says the tone is more metallic for open strings. Or I can't say brighter, but metallic. The other thing that gives it away with open strings, and this is a little more in depth, is the order of the intervals in the open chord. The order of the intervals in an open chord is different to those in the bar chord. Let me explain. So in an open chord, in an open G, the interval order is the 1, 3, 5, and then I think it's just repeated 1. It depends if you're playing that G or that G, but that will be 1, 3, 5, and then you've got a G at the top, so you've got 1, 3, 5, and then you've got another one. You've got 1, 3, and then 1. Okay, but the first, let's just take the kind of first 3 or 4 notes. We've got 1, 3, 5, and then 1. Sorry, you've got 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, and then 5. That's different. Why can't I remember which one's there? This is 1, 3. And that is the 5. And that's the 1. Why am I overthinking this? All right. So that's 1, 3, 5, 1 for an open G. But a regular root 6 bar chord is 1, 5. Octave of the 1, and then the 3. So if you hear that, although it's the same chord as that, there's a difference in the order of the intervals. That's 1, 3, 5, 1, and that's 1, 5, 1, 3. And that's how you can determine open strings and open chords. That's one of the ways. There's a couple of other contributing factors because, you know, it might be a country song, it might be capo. There's a couple of other things that would point you in a direction, Dylan, but that's a big tell. Okay. All right. So, and yes, that brightness. Okay. Open strings are super bright. And also, if you're trying to figure out where something is played on the fretboard, okay, down here is really bright and twangy. But as you move up the fretboard, it kind of gets a little more muted, a little less bright. Until it gets kind of very woody and whatever adjective you want to use. But that one, you can tell the timbre, the tonal texture, the kind of is different. Okay, that actually answers my only other question. All right, Dylan, well, I'm pretty pleased with that. Okay, so those are, we did listening to notes, we did transcribing notes, short melodies. I was going to try and do John Mayer's Gravity. All right, so yes. Okay, so we're in G, and I know the melody goes, which is quite high for this time in the morning, but I know there's my root, and it goes, so let's try and find that by singing up the major scale. So I go, here's my root, that's the first note. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. He's starting with a 6. Okay, so I know it's a major 6. What's the second note? The second note, if I count up from my root, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8 or the 1 is the root note. So he's gone from a 6 to a 1. And then he's gone. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. I can't go now. I might have to just go back down a bit. The first interval is a third. No, I don't think it is. The last interval is a third. The one I'm trying to get right now is a third. So I know it goes. Let me do it lower down. Okay. Can't hear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Octave, and then something else. Third. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. So I know it will take a bit more time than this, obviously, if you're learning. But if you sing up and down the major scale and you land on your note, you give yourself that context of the root note, you now can figure out that it goes from a 6 to an octave of the 1 to a 3. Okay, so you've figured that out in your mind. Now, if you have done a little bit of work on your fretboard and you know where your 6, where your octave, and where your 3 is in relation to the root, right? You can go, okay, here's a 6, here's an octave, and here's a 3. You know that that's the right notes. John doesn't play it in that octave, he plays it octave higher. So if you went like, played the same thing, those are the notes he plays. He doesn't quite play it like that. He bends up to the 3rd note in that thing, and he slides into the 1st note. Okay? So that's how you can figure out stuff in your head using the major scale, counting up the major scale, to work out a melody before you put your fingers on the fretboard. And then once you put your fingers on the fretboard, if you know your location of your intervals in relation to the root note, you know exactly what to play. Vapo, good morning. We're nearly finishing up, dude. Where have you been? We've been waiting for you for like an hour. We've literally done nothing. I said, look, guys, we're just going to wait till Vapo comes and then we'll do the ear training. And we've just been sitting here on a butt. So, like, what's the deal, bro? Okay, so that's really useful because you don't have to hunt and peck. It's midnight here and I have a naked lady on the bed. I don't know what I should say to that. I don't know whether... Yeah, okay, I'm leaving that over there, Vapo. You've obviously had a very good night. Well done. I'm very pleased for you. Thank you for popping in to say hello, but if you've got a naked lady in your bed, I would certainly give her more attention than me. So, yeah, a successful night. Good for you, bro. It could be a nice name to a song. Maybe she wants guitar lessons. Maybe. I'm sure there's a lot you could teach Vapo. It's time for a break. The PC is next to it. It's time for a break. Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. Have a great time, dude, as you already have. Okay. So you throw me, dude. You throw me. All right. So I was talking about working out songs, melodies, just in your head first, and then working on where to play that. And if you know where the intervals are, you don't have to hunt around. And that's massively time saving, right? No problem. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. We might do another more in-depth one starting at a more intermediate level, maybe next time. I don't know. I wanted to just start from zero, just in case people watching this needed to start from zero and didn't know where to start. So apologies for you guys if you're already kind of down the path a bit and some of the early stuff wasn't that useful. But them's the breaks, okay? A couple of things I wanted to mention before I go. This is not my guitar. I want to say thank you for my friend Tim. This is a custom shop, like 54 heavy relic Strat. And he's lent it to me for a bit to kind of get the feel of the neck because I've been quite interested in thicker, chunkier necks. This is like a super expensive guitar. So thank you for Tim for trusting me to take care of it. You know, I guess the joke is when you've got a heavy relic guitar, even if you treat it really badly and smash it, I mean, who's going to know? Okay, it's just relic. So it could be like it's a brand new heavy relic. You could accidentally put lots of dings in it, but nobody would be. This guitar, I think Tim bought it last year. It's a year old. It's like a 54 reissue or something. All right. Things I just want to mention some tools you can use, and I will pop them in the chat, okay, to help you transcribe. These are not affiliate links or anything like that. I don't get any commissions or anything for giving these to you, okay? The first one is called Amazing Slowdowner, okay? And that will slow down tracks. There's also filters to help you filter out bass and drums so you can hear clearly the guitar part, okay? There's another one called AnyTune, which I just happened to go to the website today to check out the link, and actually they've got a 50 to 60% off sale that ends tonight. So if you want to use something like that, that's also very good. Then there's some free stuff. There's Audacity. Okay, Audacity is just like a free audio manipulation software, so you can slow it down. And that's for free. And of course, there's always, if it's on YouTube, you click the cog icon, you can take it down to half speed. All right, that's also super useful. And finally, there is this link, which is the link to my ear training bootcamp for guitarists. I just thought I'd pop it in there. You guys can have a look at it. You guys can leave it where it is. I don't mind, but because it's a topic we've been talking about today, most of the exercises we've done here today are not included in the ear training. So even if you decided that you were interested in that ear training course, it's not like you'd be repeating all the stuff we've done today. This stuff is super fundamental, easy stuff. The ear training bootcamp starts a little bit further in than that. So it's for guys who are a little bit further down the track. Here is a coupon code, so you can get like 50% off or something, 59% off maybe. I don't know. Anyway, check it out if you're interested in developing your ear. I've done my best to give you ways to figure out melodies, to figure out chords, to understand the quality and identify the chords you're listening to, and ways of figuring out if there's open tunings or drop tunings, ways to listen to things like distorted guitars. Okay, a lot of the apps and stuff you can get for ear training have just got piano sounds, which is a great first start. But if you want to learn guitar parts, you need to be able to zoom in on guitar parts, right? You need to zone into that. And sometimes the distortion or effects on guitar can affect your ability to discern what they are. So we go into all of that as well. And also, once you've honed those skills in the bootcamp, there's some original songs of mine that I get you to transcribe or listen to and determine. The reason I put those in is not because I want you to listen to my original song. It's just so you can't cheat and go and get the tab from Songster or whatever. So if you're interested, go have a look. Thank you for joining me today, Dylan, Vapo. Thanks for dropping in, and I appreciate you taking the moment. Joe, Louis, and all the rest of you guys. If you've got anything else that you'd like covered, okay, particularly with ear training, you say, oh, Phil, this was kind of rudimentary and a bit easy. I need to kind of have some more in-depth stuff. We can look at that, no problem, all right? Have you got any other topics you'd like me to cover on the live stream? Please, I'll give you a few minutes if you've got any questions or any thoughts or any topic ideas. Pop them in the chat here, and then I can review that and, again, give you a live stream that's useful to you, that you can take away some stuff. I might even, if I get enough notice from you guys, might even make like some kind of PDF or checklist or something where I can kind of detail the techniques that we've done. I might actually do that for this one, Vapo. If you've missed it, I can go through and basically summarize all the techniques and the exercises we've done today in a PDF, and I'll maybe put it as a link in the description. Okay, more ear training would be great. Adrian says, thank you, Phil. Take care. Thank you, Adrian. Hope Portsmouth is sunny and warm. Joe says more ear training was great. Yeah, I can do more, Joe. Happy to do that. It's one of the most overlooked things that modern day musicians don't do, because we can just grab a tab or we can just look at YouTube tutorial. We're not using our ears, and that's damaging. It's preventing us from growing as a musician, because once you can hear something, you can hear where a melody is going to go or a riff is going to go. Once you get that kind of, in a sense, that connection between your ears, brain, and fingers, then you just save so much time with guessing where it is. You just know it's going to be here, and then you play it, and then you get on with the enjoyment of learning the song, playing the song. Vapo says, maybe a public domain song to go through the techniques to transcribe, learn a song. Okay, Jay, that's a good idea. Vapo says, advanced ear training, chords, inversions would be interesting for me. Right, that's okay. That's quite far down the track. All right. So thank you to you all. I appreciate your time. Certainly, Vapo, if I was in your situation, bro, I'm not sure I'd be flipping on the computer. But, you know, you did say it happened to be right there and she's over here. And maybe you're taking a break from your interactions. So that's fine. Cool, guys. All right. Laugh out loud. You don't know what has been going on. I know. And I'm trying to stay as on this side of tasteful. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll try and do another one next week. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments, either here in the live chat or in the comment section of the video when it goes up. All right. Cheers, guys. Bye.